you please introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm a Dutch lawyer living in Beijing. I'm involved in the China practice for 17 years. My practice develops just as the Chinese economy develops, and we more or less start to specialize in certain areas. Solar and renewable energy, like wind energy, is a very interesting topic too, especially because it's so much government focused, and the development has been huge in the last 5 to 10 years. And there's a lot of cooperation you see internationally.
So you have been talking about solar today. Can you give us a short essence, an abstract?
The mindset in China is really cost cut and therefore very competitive. This combination made that China was able to have very cheap products for very good price and eventually export it for prices that in Europe and the States manufacturers were unable to make it. In the beginning there was of course some difficulty, but only because man was reluctant for Chinese goods. But if you compare price and eventually you test the quality of the product, it turned out that the Chinese products were not so bad. So eventually their products were built into solar projects in Europe. Now, if you see on the one hand the powerhouses that were able to grow within 5 years, and now the problems they face because of reduction of export and an enormous competition on price. By the way, the price competition comes from China, inside China. There are so many small producers and you have so many large producers, but the small producers offer prices that are so enormously low that they will compete with the whole industry. So they bring the whole industry to a cost-cutting exercise. The companies compete on offers in international projects, and they are played against each other by the project developers, and eventually they have to almost offer the products below cost price. Now, is that dumping? Probably not. The more important question, I think, is will it save the European manufacturing? Because imports are already coming from Taiwan and from other countries, and Chinese invest also in via these areas, and then eventually I think it's an irreversible trend, and eventually the competition will probably focus more on downstream installation of products. Storage of energy is crucial. The technologies are not developed in this stage, but they are crucial because it could reduce the volatility of the supply, which is a very negative part. And also you see that with, I think for solar, they invested a lot of money in the development of predictability of supply, so that the grid can anticipate to higher and lower supply, and then create a system in which other energy supplies can fill the gap. But in general, solar will grow, and the question might be whether China, by now increasing enormously the domestic supply in China itself to make up for the loss of export, whether it can mitigate the damage for the Chinese producers, and maybe whether it might be a reason for further growth of the solar energy worldwide. Because if China really is going to produce, then install, they are now having 7%, I think, of the international investment in solar domestically, that can grow much bigger. Solar is having a difficult time because the grid infrastructure in China is not always able to deal with the volatility, and the mentality is to prefer coal production because it's stable, and grid infrastructure is not always ready to accept the solar power. So it's a tough climate, but you can imagine that if you are a Chinese competitor, you come from such a tough area, and then you compete internationally, where maybe we are a little bit spoiled by feed-in tariffs that are set too high from the beginning. Investors, in fact, in Europe are also interested because they can reduce costs, profit can go up, so the mechanism goes very well. I think if they would professionalize and put their funds in a internationally acceptable way into projects, at the same time supply, they could probably do much better in Europe. The other way around, I think European companies in China have maybe less chance, except when they have special technologies. Because in China, the Chinese know better how to survive, I think, in foreign parties. But internationally, I think the Chinese are still in a detrimental position compared with parties who know the market much better, who have better local partners, and who are able to provide services that go much further than just the solar panel production. So I think it's very difficult to predict how things will develop in the coming 5 years.
Thank you very much, sir.